All right, so let's get underway. So apparently, if we check our tutorial sheet, we go to question one. Go to question one of our tutorial sheet. It says, use the method of completing the square to find the standard form of the quadratic function. State the vertex and axis of symmetry of the graph of the function and then sketch its graph. So it is basically asking us to use completing the square first, then state the vertex, state the axis of symmetry, and then we need to do our graph. So if you look at my solutions, I started with doing the completing the square. So there on completing the square for that question one, which is f of x is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 1. We note that we first need to make x squared plus 4x into a perfect square. So by making it a perfect square, we are supposed to divide the coefficient of x, which apparently is 4, by 2. So we divide 4 by 2, and what we are going to get is a 2. So after we get that 2, we're going to have x plus 2 squared. So if you expand the x plus 2 squared, it is going to produce something like x squared plus 4x plus 4. But then we don't want the 4 that is being produced, an extra 4 that is being produced. And so we have to subtract it. So that is the 4 that we are subtracting out there. So we divide this 4 by 2. So it comes to be this 2 here. Then we remove the square that was with x, we bring it outside. So it becomes x plus 2 squared minus the 4, because that 4, we don't want it. It will be an extension of this equation, this perfect square. So, but we don't want it, so we subtract it. So after subtracting it, then there is this 1 that is already there. So we just add the 1. So it will come out as x plus 2 squared minus 3. So we've done our completing the square method. That is our completing the square method. So now we need to find the values of x and y for us to find the vertex. So the value for x is going to be x plus 2 squared is equal to 0. So your x is basically equal to negative 2. I wonder why my scan is not showing that as negative 2, but it's supposed to be negative 2. So x is equal to negative 2, because if you have this power, someone just texted me that they can't see what I'm sharing. Is it just their network, or maybe you all can't see what I'm sharing?
A lot of us, I think we can see. It could be network for some of them.
Oh, okay. For those who can't see, you watch it on YouTube. All right, so that is x plus 2 squared is equal to 0. So you just get the x plus 2 that is inside equated to 0. So you're going to end up with x is equal to negative 2. So that is supposed to be negative 2. Then your y, you just pick this value that is here, the negative 3. That is your y value. So it is y is equal to negative 3. So your vertex will now be negative 2, negative 3. So our vertex there is negative 2, negative 3. And what is our axis? Our axis is the x value. So the x value of the vertex is your axis. So the axis is equal to negative 2. So now we come to the other thing that we're supposed to do, which is sketching a graph. So before you sketch your graph, you only know one point, which is the vertex. And the vertex in this case is the turning point. So you can place it there, negative 2, negative 3. So I hope you can see that, negative 2, negative 3 there. So you place this first. first thing you place negative 2,3, but then you don't know the other values. Even if it's a sketch, you need to know the other values. So the fact that our A in this equation was positive, so it is telling us that the graph is facing upwards. So that is some cardinal information you need to know. Then the other thing is you need to come up with this table that you can see on your right. I don't know if you can see that table. So I've come up with that table on your right, which has X and Y values. So it has X and Y values. So you place in an X value, you see what the outcome will be. That will be your Y value. So if you place in this X value, the outcome will be your Y value. Okay, so for those who are asking questions about which link they're supposed to join, they should join the link I've sent in the group for the separate group that they made. All right, so let's continue. So what we have at that point are those values now. So you can confirm during your free time that when you plug in -4 in that equation, I mean in the main equation that we had at first, if you plug in -4, you have +9. If you plug in -3, you have -2. If you plug in -2, you have -3. If you plug in -1, you have -2. If you plug in 0, you have 1. If you plug in 1, you're going to have 6. So since now you have those figures, after you plug them in, you get those figures. What do you do next? You draw your graph now. So you sketch your graph, and your graph should come out like that. So your graph should come out like that. So you had a point where it said 0,1. That is the point. So you plug in those values. So your graph shouldn't be perfect. Your graph shouldn't be perfect. Your graph should just be a sketch. So it's just a sketch. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Are we together? So it doesn't need to be perfect. So that's your graph. So we can move on unless you guys have questions. If you have questions, you're free to interrupt and ask. So if you have questions, you're free to interrupt and ask. Okay. So if you don't have questions, we can proceed.
I have a question.
Yes.
So on the figures, can you explain again how we're coming up with those figures? I'm behind.
Which figures specifically are we talking about?
The ones in the book.
The ones in the box. So I was picking random numbers in X. So if I pick a -4, place it in the equation. So if you place that in the equation, you're going to get a 9. So let's just go to the equation that we have. So if we put -4 there, it will be -4 squared. So -4 squared, what do we get? Okay, the person who was asking is quiet.
16.
All right. Then let's have you tried all the figures to put them in?
No, let me try.
Yes, try to put them in. So you'll notice if you put in -3 there in the equation, you have 9, -12, 12, and 9 will give you -3. -3 plus 1 will give you -2. That is the -2 that we have. 2, to put it in, we have what?
So I also have a question.
Yes, sir.
there where you have x, no, up, go up again. Like,
I go up.
yes, go up again.
Okay.
Yeah, so right there, sir. Yeah. Here where you have x plus 2 in brackets squared is equals to 0. And in the final answer became x is equals to 2. So how did you ignore the squared there? Because I think it's supposed to be x is equals to, is it going to be equals to -4 if you don't ignore the, I came late, sir, so I didn't
Oh, okay.
hear the explanation.
So x plus 2 squared is equal to 0, isn't it? So the easier way of getting rid of the square there is introducing the square root, isn't it? So if you introduce the square root, you're going to get the square root of 0 is 0, isn't it? And the square root of x squared, what do you get?
Is the square root of?
The square root of x plus 2 squared.
We'll just have x plus 2.
We'll just have x plus 2, isn't it? So x plus 2 will now be equal to what?
Yes, 0.
Exactly. Then you solve. So your x is equal to -2. I don't know why you're not showing on your scan, but it should read -2. Are you clear now, sir?
Okay. I'm okay, sir.
I'm not clear. Like if you replace with those numbers that are provided, it's not giving those answers. I don't know if I'm the only.
Okay, let's do it together. If you put 0 in there, what are you going to get? X squared will be 0, isn't it? Then 4 times 0 will be 0, isn't it? So you get 1, isn't it? And if you put -1, what is -1 squared? It's 1, isn't it? If you put -1 on 4x, it would be -4. So 1 plus 1, then minus 4 gives us -2, isn't it?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
So those are numbers on the X the table. So you just pick randomly numbers.
Randomly.
And if you replace them.
Yes, sir.
And if you place them in the function given, you're getting the values for y.
Yes.
All right.
So the thing is,
Sir,
yes, madam.
I have a question here.
for the first one, where there's -4, if you place it in the equation there, it's not giving us 9. I don't know if I'm the only one or what, but it's not giving me 9.
Okay, I've noticed it's giving
It's giving
1.
me +1.
Giving 1.
Yes, it's supposed to be 1. Just change on 9, you put 1.
And I have a question on the completing. Maybe I just don't really understand the concept. But
Can you
in
speak
this
up?
function, okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so I have a question just basically on the process, and I am very open to correction. But when we start, the first question was we need to solve this function by completing the square, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so if we are going to follow the completing the square method, we're going to say this equation x squared plus 4x plus 1, it will be equated to 0, isn't that? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, so if we equate this to 0, what happens is we need to find that, and quite okay, which means the +1 is going to go on the other side, it will become -1, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but which means on the left hand side of this equation will be left with x squared plus 4. And what we do is, aren't we supposed to get the half of the middle coefficient, or in this case, the 4x, which is 2, we put that squared, and then we get to quite okay, x plus 2 squared, which is this equation here. But let's not forget that there is an equals to -1 on the right-hand side of this equation. So when we get our x squared plus 2, x plus 2 squared, yeah?
Before you go far, what you're doing is wrong. Yeah. Basically, your f of x, it's not actually equal to 0. F of x is y.
Okay, so that's why I asked to say, are we doing it the quadratic or just because it would, that's why I asked to say, do we equate this to 0 or not? So in this case, if we don't equate to 0, then yeah, carry on, because that's why I was a little confused.
Oh, okay. When doing completing the square method,
Yes.
you don't equate it to 0. So your f of x is y. Are we together?
So
So the idea is to make x squared plus 4x a perfect square.
okay.
Yes. So when you reach at the point where it says x plus 2 squared minus 3. So already there was a y this side. So you remove the x plus 2 squared, it becomes independent, and that's the x plus 2 squared is equal to 0. Then it remains as y is equal to -3. That is your y coordinate. And your x is equal to?
Okay, yeah, the -3, yes. And yes, and then you introduce a square root on both sides, or we introduce a square root to get rid of the square.
Excellent. All right, let's move on. So question B, I'll leave it as an exercise for you guys. Then we can do question C, because I feel question B is straightforward. So let's go to C. All right, so for C.
Sir, yes, the tutorial sheet in the group.
The tutorial sheet, you don't have it?
No, I have a different one.
Oh, we are answering tutorial sheet 3.
Yes, I have tutorial sheet 3, but it's different from the one you're solving.
Can you send it in the group, sir?
All right. Okay, I'll send it to the group. Okay, so for now, let's move on. So we are on question 1C now. Okay, I've sent it to the group. I hope you can see it. You can download it and open it. All right, so f of x is equal to -2x squared minus 4x plus 5. So the first thing there, we need to make it into standard form, where the coefficient of x squared is supposed to be 1. So for us to make the coefficient of x squared 1, we are supposed to divide by -2 so that we put it in standard form. So if we divide by -2, we make sure that we divide everything by -2. So if you divide the x squared, the -2x squared by -2, we remain with x squared. Then -4x will remain with 2x. Then +5 will remain with -5/2. That means we've divided by -2. So after dividing by -2, we make x squared plus 2x a perfect square. That's by dividing by 2. We divide 2x by 2, so we will have a 1 there. So it will be x.
Sorry, sir, can you please start again? You are moving a little bit fast for me.
It's the same procedure, sir. It's the same procedure as question 1. Anyway, if you miss it, you can still go back to it on YouTube. Huh? I'm saying you factor out -2 by dividing by -2 in short. So you're going to have -2 out, open brackets, x squared plus 2x minus 5/2 brackets. Then you make x squared plus 2x a perfect square. That's by dividing the 2x by. Okay, I think it's your network, sir. Maybe it's your network. That's why you can't see the screen. So yeah. All right. So you have x plus 1 squared, but then you square the 1 and you come and subtract it, because if you square x plus 1, we're going to come out with x squared plus 2x plus 1. So we don't want the 1, so you subtract it. So you're going to have x plus 1 squared minus 1 minus 5/2. So I don't like dealing with fractions because I know most students are not good when it comes to dealing with fractions. So I advise at this point you multiply by the -2 that is outside, because the -2 simply means it's multiplying the what is in the brackets, everything in the brackets. So if you multiply -2 times x plus 1 squared, it will be x plus 1 squared times -2. Then -2 times -1, it will be +2. Then -2 times -5/2, it will be +5. So at that point, you have -2, open brackets, x plus 1 squared. Then 2 plus 5 is equal to 7. So it will be -2, x plus 1 squared plus 7. So automatically, your y is equal to 7. Then you have your -2, open bracket, x plus 1 squared equal to 0. If you divide q by -2, you remain with x plus 1 squared equal to 0. And if you introduce the square root on both sides, you remain with x plus 1 equal to 0. And thus, x is equal to -1. And the fact that your a part of the quadratic equation was negative, so it tells us that the graph is supposed to face down instead of facing upwards. It's supposed to face down. So firstly, you find what your vertex is. Your vertex is simply -1, 7. The x value, the y value. So -1, 7. The axis is equal to x is equal to -1. So the axis is x is equal to -1. So you move on to graphing a sketch of the graph. So you have your turning point to be -1, 7. So you put that point. Then you draw your table again. It's easy to draw the table. You can even draw a table with just 3 numbers. Huh? So if you notice there, I started on -2. If you place in -2 in this equation, -2 squared is +4. 4 times -2 is -8. Then -4 times -2, what does it give us? It's positive, isn't it? So it's +8. Then it's the -2 squared was what? It was 4. 4 times that, it was negative, isn't it? So our answer is +5, because it would be -8 plus 8, 0. Then +5. So it would be 0 plus 5. So it would just be 5. So if you plug in -1, your answer should give you +7. If you plug in 0, everything, all those with x coefficient will be zeros, +5, so your answer will be 5. If you plug in 1, you'll be able to come out with -1. If you plug in 2, you're able to come out with -11. So you sketch that and place in those values. So you come out with that graph. So that's our graph. Unless anyone has a question. So that dotted line, that is our axis, the axis of symmetry. So guys, I've mentioned, stop calling me, stop WhatsApp calling me, because it's disturbing my meeting.
I have a question.
Yes, go on.
Can you go up?
Okay.
That part where you are finding the value, no, you can go down a little. The part where you are finding the value of x, what did you do to the -2 to get rid of it?
To get rid of the -2.
Yes, how did you find the x value?
I just picked, which point exactly?
That point after you've completed the square. Now that part where you found the y and the x.
Oh,
yes,
right.
exactly there.
So what I did here, I said we divide both sides by -2, isn't it? What is 0 divided by -2, man? It's 0, isn't it?
Yes.
So it will be x plus 1 squared is equal to 0. Then you introduce a square root on both sides. The square root of 0 is 0. The square root of x plus 1 squared is just x plus 1. So your x plus 1 is equal to 0. So your x is equal to -1. Is it clear now?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Any other question, or we can proceed? All right, let's proceed.
So mine's been up.
Sorry, sir. Sorry,
Let's
sir.
go to question 2.
So my hand's been up for some time. I thought you'd point at me.
Oh, I can't see the hands because I'm sharing the screen. So you can just, I said just interrupt. Just interrupt.
Oh, all right, all right. My question was, can you just go back a bit?
Okay, where exactly do you want me to go?
Not there. In the graph. Yes, that's there. How did you come up with 1?
How did I come up with what? How did I come up?
X plus 1 and the plus 1 and the bracket.
Okay, there's an echo, sir, so I'm unable to get you.
Oh, okay, let me. How did you come up with x plus 1 in the bracket?
How I came up with x plus 1, this x plus 1 in the brackets. This one here.
Yes. Specifically the plus 1.
How I came, are you asking on top here, on completing the square, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I said you make this guy a perfect square. So you divide this 2 by 2. So you get a 1. Then this square comes outside. So you have x plus 1 in brackets. So if you expand this, you're going to get x squared plus 2x plus 1. So we don't want a 1. This is the one we're coming to subtract here. Do you get it now?
No. Didn't you already divide on top there? Like, did you already divide by -2?
Yes, because we are putting it in standard form. So this is the standard form. Then we complete the square for this equation now, for this standard form equation. You get the point? So the -2 that we divided with, we haven't thrown it. No, we are still with it. That's why we still came to multiply
Yes.
down here. You get it now? Huh?
Now, how did you move from +2 to +1?
So that's what I'm saying, that I divided by 2.
Okay.
All right, so.
Is there any way you can just do what you did? Or there's no way you can show us that?
Okay.
On the completing of the square.
Let me show you what really happens there. So this is what happens. Huh? So if you have your x plus 1 squared, what is this equal to? We have, it means we have x plus 1 times x plus 1, isn't it? So x times x, we have x squared plus x times 1, we have x, isn't it? Plus 1 times x is plus x, isn't it? Then 1 times 1 is plus 1. So this is now equal to x squared plus 2x plus 1. Do you agree with me?
Yes, we do.
But then if you notice in our equation, in this one, let me just go up a bit. in this one, it is x squared plus 2x. We don't have this plus 1, isn't it? Okay, those who ask the question, it would be good if you are the ones to be responding as I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah. So we only have this in one equation, but we don't have this other part.
Yes.
So this is the one I came to subtract here. So the completing the square method, you make this guy a perfect square, but then in the process of making it a perfect square, you have an extra number which you don't want, and this is the one you come and subtract.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
So before I answer your question,
Can't you?
before I answer your question, those who asked my question, have you understood now?
Not really. Okay, my question is completing
No.
the square. Do you add the 1 and subtract it, since we don't have the equal sign where you can say you add 1 on the first part and the other side you also add 1?
No, the reason that you're subtracting that 1 and you don't add it, you subtract it. The reason you subtract it is what I'm trying to say. There's an extra number which is 1, which is not part of the equation. That's why you are subtracting.
All right, Saka, are we allowed to use factorization method?
No, factorization method is not completing the square method. The answers that will come out will be different.
Oh, so in short, it's not allowed. It's just supposed to use completing the square. Just
if you're asked to use completing the square, you have to use completing the square only.
oh, okay. So in short, in every question they ask us, they're going to tell us to use completing the square.
Yes.
No.
So I've got a question.
Go on.
On the graph, go on the graph as in where the graph is cutting the x-axis. Where are you getting those values from? Are you getting them from the table or maybe?
So as I said, it's a sketch. So you don't necessarily have to get everything. You get my point?
You're not attending the class.
You don't necessarily have to get everything.
You have left.
Okay, go up. Come down. Like, sir, I want to see the graph so that I tell you what I'm talking about.
Okay, just a minute. All right, so you're asking about here where it is crossing the x-axis, isn't it?
Yes.
So just know the values that
so
are.
you're just supposed.
Yes, go on.
There, okay, as long as it has passed the TP there, down here it can be any number. Like it doesn't have to be an exact number where you say this side is -3, the other side is 2 or 1.
So on the table we found -3, -1. And on the other side we found -1, +1, -1. So you just know these points. Where it is going to cross the X here, you are not sure because it's just a sketch. So just cross anywhere as long as you're able to see that it's a graph.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to question 2. So question 2 of our tutorial sheet. If you go to your tutorial sheet there, it is asking us to find the maximum or minimum value of the function. State whether this value is a maximum or a minimum. So now, how do we know that this function has a maximum value or it has a minimum value? So we get to know if this function has a maximum value by determining the a part. Does the a part have a greater than 0 or it is a less than 0? So if a is greater than 0, then the function has a minimum value. And if a is less than 0, then the function has a maximum value. So there, question 2a, f of x is.
Can you repeat what you said, sir?
Pardon?
Can you repeat what you just said about him and how to determine the maximum and the minimum values?
0, the function is minimum. If a is less than 0, the function is maximum. All right. F of x is equal to x squared plus 8x. So the formula for finding, we first find h, and then we find k. So h is equal to negative b over 2a. So negative b over 2a. So in this case, our b part is a, because if you have a quadratic equation, a, the one which has x squared, the coefficient is a. The one which has x, the coefficient is b. And the coefficient is c. So x squared plus 8x, the b part is 8. So since it's negative b, so it will be negative 8 over the a part is 1. So it will be 2 times 1, which is just negative 8 over 2, which is equal to negative 4. So our h in this case is equal to negative 4. And since our h is equal to negative 4, we find f, for us to find k, we find f of h, or f of negative b over 2a. So f of negative b over 2a gives us, we get the negative 4 and place it in the equation, because negative b over 2a is negative 4. So we place it in the equation. So we're going to have negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4. So negative 4 squared is positive 16, and negative 4 times 8 is negative 32. So 16 minus 32 gives us negative 16. And since our a is greater than 0, then the function has a minimum value, which is negative 16. Since our a is greater than 0, so since our a is greater than 0, then the function has a minimum value, which is negative 16. So the minimum value, you find it after placing your h into the equation. The number that you find, that is your minimum value. Okay, I hope that.
Sorry, sir. What did you say f was?
What did I say? F? F is the function.
What did you say? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir. On the second step here, how did you come up with negative 4? Where did the third come from?
I can't get you.
I'm saying there where it is written negative 4. Where is the squared? Where did you get the squared?
I think I can help you with the.
All right, so you don't need to answer that question. That's a straightforward question. Someone can be able to see how we got negative 4. Let's be serious, guys. You don't know that negative 4 divided by 2 is 4. Let's not.
He's talking about the square side.
All right.
Sir, I have a question.
What's your question?
Hello. Sir. Can you use another method to do this? Would this still be regarded as correct, or maybe it's the only method you accept?
There are so many formulas in mathematics. So if you have another formula and you're able to come out with the same solutions, that's still okay, as long as that formula exists.
Yes, it does. Okay.
All right. So f of x for the b part, f of x is equal to negative x squared plus 10x minus 3. So our a is negative 1 and our b is positive 10. So placing them in, we have negative 10 over negative 2, and negative 10 divided by negative 2, we have a positive 5. So to find our k, we're going to place in the fx equation the positive 5 that we have found. So it will be positive 5 squared, the negative of open brackets 5 squared plus 10, open brackets 5 minus 3. So it will come out as 5 squared is 25 times the negative, it will be negative 25, plus 10 times 5 is 50 minus 3. So negative 25 plus 50 is 25, 25 minus 3 is positive 22. So our value is 22. But then because this function has a which is less than 0, then the function has a maximum value. So since a is less than 0, it has a maximum value, and the maximum value is 22. So since a is less than 0, it has a maximum value, and the maximum value is 22. All right. Let's move on.
So I have a question. In a case where you have two answers, the first answer is a negative and the second answer is a positive, what can we say about that?
What can you say in terms of what, sir?
Yeah, like on the first this same big question. Let's say you found the negative 5 there, and then on 22 it's a positive answer. So how can we do that one?
If it's a maximum or a minimum is the a part, the one which has x squared in the equation. If it's negative, then it is maximum. If it's positive, then it's minimum. Whatever values you're going to find for h and k does not determine if it's a maximum or a minimum.
Oh, okay, sir.
Thank you. So f of x is equal to 5x squared minus 11. So in this case, our b part is 0 because we don't have the x part. So since we don't have the x alone, it's a 0. So it will be negative of 0, which does not exist, over 10. So 0 over 10 is just simply 0. So your h is 0. And you place the 0 into your equation, so you have 0 plus 0 minus 11, so which will be negative 11. And since the coefficient of x squared, which is 5, is positive, which is greater than 0, then the function has a minimum value, and the minimum value is negative 11. I hope we're...
So, sir, in short, if they are on the 11, since an x is not there, so it's just 0 if you don't have x.
Exactly. All right, so let's beat up. Let's go to question 3. We're remaining with an hour, so we're supposed to finish this tutorial so that tomorrow we'll do another tutorial. We don't have enough time. The test is just around the corner. All right, so question 3. If we go to our tutorial sheet, question 3 is asking us to use long division to find the first polynomial by the second. Use long division to divide the first polynomial by the second. So you use long division to divide 5x to the 3 plus 6x to the 2 minus 17x plus 20. We divide it by x plus 3. So how do we do it? How do we divide using long division? So this is something that we are used to, guys. We started learning long division way back in maybe grade 2 or somewhere there. So x plus 3 rather, dividing into 5x to the 3 plus 5x to the 3 plus 6x squared minus 17x plus 20. So how you divide like this. You say x, instead of saying x plus 3, but you just say x into 5x to the 3. So it will give you 5x squared because the x will cancel one of the parts. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we just say x into 5x to the 3 is 5x squared. Then 5x squared times x, it will be 5x to the 3 plus 5x squared times the 3 will give us 15x squared. So after we reach this point, we subtract. So we say 5x to the 3 minus 5x to the 3. It is 0. So that's why I've left it blank. It is 0. Then 6x to the 2 minus 15x squared. It will be able to give us negative 9x squared. So after you reach at this point, you say x into negative 9x squared. It will be negative 9x. Then negative 9x times x, it will be negative 9x squared. Then negative 9x times 3 will give you negative 27x. So negative, because we're subtracting, so it will be negative and negative gives you positive. So it will be like negative 9x squared plus 9x squared, which is 0. Negative and this negative again gives you 0, gives you positive. So it will be negative 17x plus 27x. What does it give us? It gives us positive 10x. Then we drop this 20 to be plus 20. So it will be x into 10x will give us positive 10. Positive 10 times x will give us positive 10x. And 10 times 3 will give us positive 30. So if we subtract, it will be 10x minus 10x, 0, 20 minus 30, it is negative 10. So x plus 3 divided into 5 to the 3 plus 6x squared minus 17x plus 20 will give us 5x squared minus 9x plus 10 with a remainder of negative 10. Or you can simply put this, divide this is equal to 5x squared minus 9x plus 10. Then the remainder is negative 10 over 3, over x plus 3. So what you can do at that point is simply put a comma somewhere here. So you put a comma here so that it shows that these guys are not together. I hope we are clear on long division.
Sir,
Madam.
can you just like scroll up a bit? So there, I'm confused there on, yes, I've gotten the part where you get the 15 from. Now starting from negative 9x squared minus 17. Can you just explain a bit?
So what is 6 minus 15, madam? What is 6 minus 15?
Negative 9.
And that's where I got the negative 9x squared. And the negative 17x, I just dropped this negative 17x and put it here. I hope that is clear now.
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
All right.
My question is on the answer, that side. When stating the remainder, do you have to divide it by the factor?
It's both are correct. You can either just say remainder negative 10, or you can put negative. The moment you just put comma negative 10 over x plus 3, it tells us the remainder is negative 10. So if you're comfortable with putting 5x squared minus 9x plus 10, then you put remainder negative 10. It is also correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. So the same process is done here, despite this is a bit different because we are now dealing with x squared. So you're now dealing with x squared. So that is x squared plus 1. So x squared into x to the 5. You remain with x to the 3. X to the 3 times x squared will be x to the 5. But we don't have a part which is x to the 4, because x to the 3 times 1 is x to the 2, is x to the 3 rather. So This part means it is 0x to the 4, because 0x to the 4 will simply be 0 and it's nothing. So for the sake of subtracting, because we are supposed to subtract and we can't subtract 3x to the 4 minus x to the 3. So we introduce a 0x to the 4. So we're going to have x to the 5 minus x to the 5, which is 0. Then 3x to the 4 minus 0x to the 4 will give us 3x to the 4. Then negative 2x to the 3 minus x to the 3 will give us negative 3x to the 3.
I'm not clear on the previous part.
I can't get you.
For 0x.
Speak up. All right, let's proceed. Seems we've lost her. I didn't get a question.
It's gone.
You guys is back, I think.
He's come back.
All right, guys, sorry for that. So we continue.
So I was saying I'm not clear on the part for 0x to the power 4.
Okay. All right, just a minute. All right. So you said you are not clear on the part. Which part? The 0x power 4.
Why multiply x to the power 3 by 1? There. How you?
I can't get you. What's your question? Okay, if someone is able to get her, kindly repeat her question.
I'm not clear on the part.
She's asking that she's wondering where the 0 to the power x is coming from.
Oh, okay. So this is the part. We said x to the power 2 into x to the power 5. So we said x power 2 into x power 5 is x power 3, isn't it? So after we get the x power 3, we say x power 3 times x power 2 will give us x power 5. And x power 3 times 1 will give us x power 3, isn't it? But then we can subtract this 3x power 4 minus x power 3. So we introduce a 0x power 4 because it's missing in our equation. So if it's missing in our equation, then it's a 0. It's a nothing. If you want, you can just put 0. But just to show you that you're subtracting with x power 4, it is 0x power 4. 0 and 0x power 4 are one and the same thing. I hope we are clear. So x power 5 minus x power 5, 0. Then 3x power 4 minus 0x power 4 is 3x power 4. So because we're not subtracting with anything, so we just bring down the 3x power 4. Then negative 2x power 3 minus x power 3 will be minus 3x power 3. Then we drop the negative 7x squared here. So we'll have x squared into x 3x power 4, which will be 3x power 2. Then 3x power 2 times x squared will be 3x power 4. Then 3x squared times 1 will be 3x squared. And again, we don't have x power 3. So we introduce a 0x power 3. So if we subtract, we're going to have negative 3x squared, x power 3 minus 10x squared, because negative 7x squared minus 3x squared is negative 10x squared. Then we drop the negative x. So if we say x squared into negative 3x to the 3, it will be negative 3x. 3x times x squared will be negative 3x cubed minus minus 3x times 1 will be minus 3x. And again, we don't have x squared, so we introduce a 0x squared, so that when you subtract them, you have negative 10x squared plus 2x, because negative x minus minus will be, which will be positive. So it will be 3x minus x, which will be plus 2x. We drop the 4, is plus 4. So x squared into negative 10x squared will be negative 10. And negative 10 times x squared will be negative 10x squared. Then at that point, you have 10 times 1, which will be negative 10. Then we don't have the x value, so we introduce a 0x. So if we subtract this, is 0. Subtract this will give you 2x. And if we subtract this, it will be negative and negative positive. 4 plus 10 is 14. So our remainder in this case is 2x plus 14. So if you have x squared as a divisor, the remainder should have 2x somewhere, or an x somewhere. So this divided by this is equal to x power 3 plus 3x squared minus 3x minus 10. And a remainder of 2x plus 14 over x squared plus 1. So if you want, you can neglect this. If you want, you can neglect this and just say remainder. Just say remainder 2x plus 4. That is correct as well. Are we clear?
So I have a question.
Go on.
Can you just scroll up it? Yes, just when you said x squared into x squared into 2x. Which part was that? What is it?
All right, let's continue. Because the SAR is not yet decided on this question.
Before you move on, sir, again, can I ask?
Go on.
So with those parts where you introduce a 0 because there is no like term to subtract, should we have to do the same even when they give us a question to say, find the zeros in this equation? Should we also replace with a 0 on a number where we don't have a
Finding
like
the zeros, finding the zeros is different.
Also, for finding the zeros, you just have to subtract them just like that.
It's different. Finding the zeros is different, sir. It's not like the way we're introducing the zero. We'll come to that. Don't worry. We'll come to that.
So in short, you're saying.
So I just want to be clear.
All right.
Sir, I just want to be clear on the same division. After you did x squared multiplied by 1, there it was a 0. So you transferred the x squared to the next number, which is negative 2x to the power 3.
2x to the power 3. I can't see the point where which you're trying to come to.
I'm saying after you multiplied x to the power 3 by 1, then okay, you're supposed to put it under 3x to the power 4. But since there we put a 0, you got the x to the power 3 and like put it on the next number, which is negative 2x to the power 3.
I can't see the negative 2x power 3 that you're talking about.
The one which is on top, like in the equation.
There's no
the
negative 2,
okay,
madam.
the one.
It doesn't have a negative 2x.
So it's there.
On the B part?
So it's there, negative 2x to the power.
Oh, you mean this one here?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Like after you multiplied x to the power 3 multiplied by 1, it was supposed to be under 3x to the power 4. Now, since that one is a 0, you took the x to the power 3 on the next number, which is negative 2x to the power 3.
Exactly. That's where you're supposed to take it. Okay, so I'll skip question C. because it's one and the same things.
Sir, sorry. Sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. I haven't actually been given the opportunity to ask the question since I raised the hand before everyone has asked the question. I wanted to ask the question, why are we multiplying? Can you go up again? Why are we multiplying the 3x squared? Oh, sorry, where are we getting the 0x to the power 4? Since here, if you multiply this one,
So we say that
3x
x power 3
3
times x squared
multiplied by
is
2.
x power 5, and x power 3 times 1 is x power 3. So we don't have x power 4. So which means that is a 0 because it's not there. So we introduce a 0x power 4. I hope that is clear.
Oh, yeah, that's where actually I was getting lost, because looking at the thing, it wasn't actually showing you where you are getting a 0 to the power 0.
Oh, okay, sir. Don't worry, if you don't get it, you can still watch this video later, then you'll be able to understand. All right, let's go to question 4. Question 4 is use synthetic division to divide the first polynomial by the second. I actually told your lecturer I'm not supposed to teach this during tutorials because it's too easy and straightforward. But anyway, we'll go through it. So it's saying 4x to the power 3 minus 5x squared plus 6x minus 7 divided by x minus 2. So we are dividing by x minus 2. So since we are dividing by x minus 2, so what we have there, what we basically have is this. We have something like x, what we have there is we have x minus 2. So x minus 2, if you want, that is the same as x minus 2 equal to 0. So that means x is equal to positive 2. So when you're doing synthetic, you get the positive 2 instead of the negative 2. So you put the positive 2 there and put the figures, the coefficients in your equation. So our coefficients are 4, negative 5, 6, negative 7.
Kindly come against that.
So I said that is x minus 2. So that is x minus 2 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 2. So you get the 2 and put it here. Then you get the coefficients of your equation. That is 4, negative 5, 6, negative 7. So what you do is you drop your 4, you put it down and say 2 times 4 will give you 8. And if it gives you 8, you say negative 5 plus 8. And negative 5 plus 8 is positive 3. When you come to 2 again, 2 times 3 will be 6. Then you say 6 plus 6 will be 12. Then you say 2 times 12, 24. Negative 7 plus 24 is 17. So it tells you that these three are the coefficients of your new equation. So those three are the coefficients of your new equation. Are we together? So these three are the coefficients of your new equation, and this guy here is the remainder. So 4, 3, 2 are the coefficients, then 17 is the remainder. The fourth number is the remainder. So the new equation will be 4x squared plus 3x plus 12. Remainder 17. Is it clear? All right, so like I said, this guy is one of the easiest, huh? So it's easy and straightforward. Then,
so sir, does it mean the one that becomes the remainder is the one without the x value?
the one that is at the end, the one that is at the end, that is your remainder. Is it clear?
The one that is at the end of the equation?
No, down here, when you find these values that are down, the last number is your remainder.
Oh, all right.
Then the next equation was.
Sir.
Yes, I can get you.
So why is 2 positive? Why is 2 positive?
Sir, that is something I was from explaining.
Why? Yeah, this.
I explained that.
I didn't get you, sir.
Okay, so the equation itself.
The idea is
we're dividing it.
X minus 2 is equal to 0. Are you able to see that, sir?
Yes.
The one who asked me. So x minus 2 is equal to 0, meaning if you solve for x, what are you going to have?
2.
So
Positive
x is
2.
equal to 2. Yes. So this is the 2 that you get and put it here.
Okay. Okay.
Good. So should I consider it we're good to go? All right, I guess
yes,
we are.
Continue.
All right, so we now have an equation. So our equation was, I'll go to C because B is something similar. So I'll go to C. C has x to the 5 minus 1 divided by x minus 1. So you notice that this is x to the 5 and the next number is a constant. So what means the terms that are in between here, x to the power 4, x to the power 3, x to the power 2, x to the power 1 are all zeros. They are all zeros. So when getting the figures, since we were dividing by x minus 1, we get a positive 1 and plug it there. And then we had x to the power 5. This is the x to the power 5. So the x to the power 4 was not there, so it's a 0. X to the power 3 is a 0. X to the power 2 is a 0. X to the power 1 is a 0. And then the last number was negative 1. I hope we are able to see that. Then at this point, we drop this 1 down and say 1 times 1 is 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 0 plus 1, 1. 1 times 1, and so on, and so forth, and so on. So it will, the last one will be 1 times 1, 1, but this was a negative 1. So negative 1 plus 1 will be 0. So in this case, our remainder is 0. And so the equation will read as x power 4 plus x power 3 plus x power 2 plus x plus 1 with a remainder of 0. Okay, let's move on. I'm sure there are no questions. So the next equation has x 8x power 3 minus 4x squared plus 6x minus 3. Then we're dividing by x minus 1 over 2. So in that case, x is equal to 1 over 2, which is x is equal to half. So when dividing, what we are going to do is we get the half. So we drop the 8 and say half times 8 is 4. Then this is negative 4 plus 4. So it will be 0. Half times 0 is 0. 6 times 6 plus 0 is 6. Then half times 6 is 3. Then negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So what will be our equation? Since the x value is 0, so we're going to have 8x squared plus 6, because this is 0, so it's nothing, we leave it out. Then the remainder is also 0. So you have 8x squared plus 6, remainder 0. Do we have any questions there?
So sir, the last number is always the remainder, like the last number we find there.
Yes, like I mentioned, the last number is always the remainder. All right, so those hear some voices. You can mute your mics. All right, let's move to question 6. Let's move to question. Oh, sorry, question 5. We're on question 4. So move to question 5. Use synthetic division and the factor theorem.
Question 4D.
Whether the given binomial is a factor of Px. So those whose mics are on, kindly mute yourself.
Could you just kindly go back to the
So, sir, your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry for that. So, I'm saying
hello,
use
sir, before
question 5.
proceed that.
Question 5, I'm using synthetic division. So if you have a question, that's the same thing I'm going to repeat. So use synthetic division.
Hello, sir, can you get me?
Yes, I can get you.
Yes, I was kindly asking if you can just go back to the solutions. I wanted to take a look at question 4D.
You were kindly asking, so you're not still asking. Yes, what's your question on D?
I'm still asking for question 4D.
I'm on 4D.
No, the solutions, I mean. No, I mean the solution.
Isn't that the solution that
Okay.
I'm showing on the screen?
All right. It wasn't showing.
Go on with your
able to
question.
see
We don't
now,
have
it's
time,
fine.
sir.
We can move. No, it's fine. I don't have a question. I just wanted to take a look at the
Use synthetic division and the factor theorem to determine whether the given binomial is a factor of Px. So Px is equal to x to the power 3 plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6, x minus 2. So I'm going to use synthetic division to solve A, and I'm going to use factor theorem to solve B, then you can do C. So using synthetic division for A, we are going to have 2 being divided into 1, 2, -5, and -6. So it's easy, you drop the 1, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, -5 plus 8 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 is 0. So since the remainder is 0, as we can see from there, then x minus 2 is a factor of Px. So if it gives you a remainder of 0, then it is a factor. But if it doesn't give you a remainder of 0, if it gives you a certain number which is other than 0, then it's not a factor of that equation. So since the remainder is 0, then x minus 2 is a factor of Px. I hope that is clear. So C part.
Sir.
Yes.
No. Sir, so now where I'm getting confused is where are you getting the number you're dividing with the polynomial function?
So where have you been all this time? Because I've been explaining that. That is in the equation. Haven't you seen it in the equations? Don't you have the tutorial sheet, sir? You don't have it.
No, actually, okay, the question. No, I have the questions, but I can't see the questions.
You have the questions, but you can't see the question. So, like there on question 5, it says px is equal to x power 3 plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. The one you're dividing with is x minus 2. But that x minus 2, you put it to 0 so that you have x is equal to 2. Then you divide q by 2. I hope that is clear now.
And we have to divide by 2.
Oh, I skipped B. So we go to C, which is easy as well. So x minus 5 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 5. So in that equation, where there is x, you put 5. So wherever there is x, you put 5. Then you start expanding. So you have 5 to the 5, 3,125. 5 to the 4 times 2 is 1,250. Then 5 to the 3 times 22 is 2,750. 5 to the 2 times 50 is 1,250. Then 5 times 75 is 375. So after you do your mathematics there, you should be able to see that it will give you 0. So it shows that the remainder is 0. So x minus 5 is a factor of px since the remainder is 0. So since when you plug in 5 into the equation, it is giving you 0. So the remainder is 0. But if it gives you a different number, that is the remainder, and of which it won't be a factor. So it is only a factor. The remainder is 0. I hope we are clear on that.
So for this one, can we also use the one that we've been doing, or we just do the same one?
You can use synthetic, you can use this one, it will still give you the same answer.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, question 6. So find the zeros of each polynomial function. If a 0 is a multiple 0, state its multiplicity. So it's px is equal to x cubed plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 8. So we want to find the zeros. So how do we find the zeros? So you're supposed to divide p over q. So your p is the last number, which is -8. So you check the factors of -8. And your q is the first number, the a part, which is 1. So the factors of -8 are plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 4, and plus minus 8. So if you notice, the factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, 8. But you put them as plus minus, plus minus, plus minus, plus minus. Then the factor of 1 is just 1 itself. So after you do that, you see that if you divide each of these terms by 1, you simply have the same terms. So it will be plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 4, plus minus 8. So after you do that, you do a try and error. So what you're going to do is you have the factors 1, 2, 4, 8, and these factors are either positive or negative. So you start picking random numbers. If you pick a positive one and place it in that equation, what is it going to give us? So this would be 1 plus 3, which is 4. 4 minus 6 is -2. -2 minus 8 is negative 10. It's not giving us 0. So negative positive 1 is not a 0 factor. Then we pick negative 1. If we place negative 1 in there, we're going to have negative 1. Place negative 1 in there, we're going to have place positive 3, because negative 1 squared is positive 1 times 3 is 3. So it will be negative 1 plus 3, which is positive 2. Then if you put negative 1 in there, negative 1 times negative 6, it will be positive 6. Then 2 plus 6, it will be 8. 8 minus 8, it will be 0. So negative 1 is satisfying, because if you place it in, you're going to get 0. So meaning the factor is not x minus 1. The factor is x plus 1. Because if we get x plus 1 to 0, we're going to have that x is equal to negative 1. So the factor is x plus 1. So if the factor is x plus 1, which will give us 0. So meaning x plus 1 is the first 0. So that is our first 0. So this formula that I was showing here, the P over Q, is called the rational 0 theorem. So during your free time, just Google that. Rational 0 theorem. So after you find the fixed factor, now use synthetic division so that it can help you to find the other factors. So since it was, we had put in negative 1, so we put negative 1 here. So when we put in negative 1, what do we have? We drop a 1. So 1 times 1, negative 1, 3 plus negative 1, which will be positive 2. Negative 1 times 2, negative 2, negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 1 times negative 8 is 8, so you get a 0. So it even proves up, even here, that it's a factor. So then the new equation will be x plus 1, then x squared plus 2x minus 8 is equal to 0. Then at that point, x squared plus 2x minus 8, you can simplify this using factorization method. So the product is negative 8, the sum is 2. The two numbers that you can multiply are negative 2 and 4. So negative 2 times 4, it will give you negative 8. Negative 2 plus 4, it will give you positive 2. So you have x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8 is equal to 0. So at this point, you now have factor out x, you remain with x minus 2. Factor out 4, you remain with x minus 2. So you have x plus 4 and x minus 2. So we'll say the zeros are x plus 1, x minus 2, and x plus 4. Their multiplicity is 1. So if the multiplicity is, what we mean by their multiplicity is 1 is that we only have one x plus 1. It is not repeating. So if we had x plus 1 and x plus 1, then we would have said the multiplicity for x plus 1 is 2. But since we only have one x plus 1 and one x plus 2 and one x plus 4, so their multiplicity is 1. All right. So if there's no question, we can move on. So I'm going to move on and do, yes?
Can you just scroll up?
Yes.
Just there on the x plus 1. Can you explain again? Just go down after finding the remainder there. Just that part.
Which part? Which x plus 1?
Just that part. Can you explain a bit? There, x plus 1 brackets x squared. There. Yeah.
So the x squared plus 2x minus 8 there, what you do is you use factorization method. I'm sure you know how to use factorization method. So you find the product, sum, and factor. So the product is negative 8. The sum is 2. Then you find the factors. Those two numbers that you can multiply to get negative 8, and two numbers, and those same numbers, if you add them, they'll give you positive 2. Then you factorize and you come up with that.
Excuse me, sir. So it's only for this one where factorization method is allowed.
Yes.
To be used.
Sir, on the same question, you're ignoring the x plus 1 and just considering the x squared plus 2x minus 8.
We've already factored out the x plus 1. So we want to factor out, to factorize x squared plus 2x minus 8. X plus 1 is already factorized. So we want to factorize x squared plus 2x minus 8. Okay, so I'll skip our questions and go to D because that is basically a repetition. B is easy, right. C is easy. I'll go to D. So D, x cubed minus 16x. So first thing, you can factor out the x and remain with x squared minus 16. And if you factor out the x, you remain with x squared minus 16. You can note that this is the same as x squared minus 4 squared. And x squared minus 4 squared, so let me just write it here. I know others will be confused. So you have x squared minus 4 squared. So on this question, if you have something like this, then you can do difference of 2 squares, where this guy is now equal to, so this guy is equal to x minus 4 brackets in x plus 4, like that. Are we able to see that? So at that point now, we have that the zeros are x minus 4, x plus 4, and 0. Because this x is basically equal to 0. So the x is 0, the first x is 0. So the factors are x minus 4, x plus 4, and 0. And their multiplicity is 1 because this is x minus 4, this is x plus 4. So they are not repeating. These guys are not repeating, they are different. So their multiplicity is 1. I hope that is clear. So this mathematics is
So, Safi, before you go to question 7, can you please clarify on which types of equations should we use? The long division one, the synthetic one, the factorization one?
The question will ask you to find that. The question itself will tell you if they want you to use synthetic, long division, or factorization. So if they don't ask you, you use the one that you're comfortable with. All right, so we move to question 7.
So which means if they don't, which means if they don't ask you, meaning that the equation can work for all the types of.
So evaluate binomial coefficient. So that is called 7 choose 4, 11 chooses 0, 11 choose 11. So when you want to simplify or evaluate the coefficients of those binomial functions, the formula that we use is this that I've provided for you there. So that is the formula that you use over there. This formula, let me just separate. So it's n choose k means n factorial over k factorial, open brackets, n minus k factorial. So in this case, we have 7 choose 4. So our 7 is our n and our 4 is our k. So it will be 7 factorial over 4 factorial over 3 factorial. So 7 factorial simply means 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1.
So I have a question.
Go on. Okay, it seems we've lost the man. You can't hear his question. So 7 factorial means 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. But then 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 simply means 4 factorial. So we have 4 factorial, which is this. Then inside we have n minus k, which is 7 minus 4. So 7 minus 4 is 3 factorial. So at this point, we have 4 factorial, 3 factorial. So if we have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 factorial. Then we also have 4 factorial down. So this 4 factorial can cancel with the 4 factorial. And then the 3 factorial is actually 3 times 2 times 1. 3 times 2 times 1 is equal to 6. So the 6 can cancel with the 6. So you just remain with 7 times 5. And what is 7 times 5? 7 times 5 is 85. Are we clear? So that is our answer. 7 choose 4 is basically 85.
Sir, excuse me, sir. How did you cancel out the 6?
3 factorial is equal to 6 because 3 factorial means 3 times 2 times 1. So 3 times 2 is 6 times 1 is 6.
So, sir, how do you know that this is a factorial or it's not? How do you know?
So the way the question is
What is a
given,
factorial, sir?
the way the question is given, 7 choose
What is
4.
Oh, all right.
All right, so let's move on. Then 11 choose 0. So 11 choose 0. So it will be 11 factorial over 0 factorial. Then inside we had the n minus 0. So which is 11 minus 0, which is 11. So it will be 11 factorial over 11 factorial. So 0 factorial is not equal to 0. 0 factorial is not equal to 0. Never should you make that mistake because there's 0 factorial times 11 factorial, then you say it is 0 down here. No. 0 factorial is 1. Have that in your mind. So 11 factorial over 11 factorial. So you cancel the 11 factorial and the 11 factorial. So you have 1 over 1. Then 0 factorial is 1. So you're going to basically have 1. So 11 factorial over 0. 11 combined 0 is actually 1. Then 11 factorial, 11 combined, 11 choose 11 is also 1. I'm leaving it for you to go and find out why 11 choose 11 is equal to 1. It's easy to follow those steps. You'll be able to find that 11 choose 11 is equal to 1. Or any number choose that number is equal to 1. All right, so we move on. Do you have questions? Okay. Since we don't, let's move on. Move to question 8. Question 8 is telling us to expand the binomial. So expanding the binomial, what we do is we have n to 0. The formula should be n to 0, x to the power n, y to the power 0, plus n choose 1, x to the power n minus 1. Let me just write it on top, because I know people like seeing. So the formula is n choose 1, or choose 0, choose 0. Anyway, I'll send the picture in the group so that we save time. Save time. So So the formula, I'll just explain the formula here. The formula is n choose 0, x to the power n, y to the power 0, plus n choose 1, x to the power n minus 1, y to the power 1, n plus n choose 2, x to the power n minus 2, y to the power 2, plus and so on. All right, so in this case, x plus y power 5. So the 5 is our n. So the first thing is n choose 0. So we'll have 5 choose 0. So 5 choose 0, x to the power 5, y to the power 0, plus 5 choose 1, x to the power 4, y to the power 1, plus 5 choose 2, x to the power 3, because 5 minus 2 is 3, y to the 2, plus 5 choose 3, x to the 2, y to the 3, and so on. So if you start finding these guys, you find that 5 choose 0 is 1. So the coefficient of x to the and y to the power 0 is 1. So you remain with x to the 5. So x to the 5. 5 choose 1 is 5. Then you have x to the 4, y. Plus 5 choose 2 is 10, x to the 3, y to the 2. Plus 10, 5 choose 3 is 10, x to the 2, y to the 3. Plus 5 choose 4 is 5, x to the 1, y to the 4. Plus 5 choose 5 is 1, 0 to x to the power 0 is 1. So you remain with y to the 5. So there, our answer is x to the 5 plus 5x to the 4, y plus 10x to the 3, y squared plus 10x squared, y 3 plus 5x, y4 plus y5. Yes, what's your question?
I've got a question. Yes, how's 5 to 3 giving us 10?
You can try to
5
find
to 3,
that, sir. Find the way we are finding 5 choose, the way we are finding 11 choose whatever number was on top there. The way we solved on top on question 7. Try to solve for 5 choose 3. Tell us what you're finding, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay, let's handle the SARS question before we come to your question. So, sir, we are going to have 5 factorial, isn't it? Over 3 factorial. Then 5 minus 3 is 2. So it will be 2 factorial. So this is equal to 5 factorial is the same as 5 times 5 times 4 times 3 factorial over 3 factorial 2 factorial, isn't it, sir? So the 3 factorial and the 3 factorial will cancel. 2 factorial is 2. 2 into 4 is 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. I hope your question is answered, sir. Madam, you can ask your question now.
So like I was asking, sir, like, can we use the Pascal triangle to find the variables and just put the squares, I mean the powers?
If you want to use the Pascal triangle, you can use it, but you'll get stuck on big numbers. So it's fine.
Okay.
All right. We got to question D. So I'm going to skip B and C. I'll go to D. So 2x squared plus y to the 3 to the 5. So the same procedure. 5 choose 0, 5 choose 1, and so on. Then this will be 2x to the 5 and y 3 to the 0. So you notice that this is 2x squared. So it won't come out as 2x to the 5. No. So you have 5 to 0 is 1. Then y to the 3 power 0 is 1. So you remain with this. So you have 2x squared to the 5. 2 to the 5 is 32. X squared to the 5 is x to the 10 because you multiply the powers. So it will be 32x to the 10. Okay, then 5 choose 1. What do you get? You get 10. 2 to the 4. What do you get? 2 to the 4. I think there was an error here. So because 2 to the 4 is 16. So 16 times 10 should read 160 somewhere here. Yeah, so 160. 5 choose 2. What does it give us? Oh, actually, this was correct. Yeah, because this was 5. 5 choose 1 is 5. Then 5 times 16, what do you get? 5 times 16, guys.
Say
80.
8, isn't it? So I was correct. Yeah. Then
Yes, it
5
is.
choose 2 is 10. Then 2 to the 3 is 8. So this is also 80. And we should be able to get those values at the end of the day. So if you get those
So I have a
values,
question.
we are set to go. Okay, I wonder how people are having questions on these straightforward things. Go on.
My question is, in the exam, are we supposed to show how we get 5 combination 3, like to show our working how we get from 5 combination 3 to 10?
It depends with the marks that are allocated with your question. If this question is allocated 2 marks, then just showing this, you earn your 2 marks. But if it's allocated, let's say 5 marks or 6 marks, then they want you to show how you found 5 combined 1, 5 combined 4, and so on. But I think that won't be necessary because even the lecturer will know what 5 combined 3 is. So yeah. All right, so we go to permutation. So how do we find permutation? So permutations, so a permutation of 8,7 is found by 8 factorial over 8 minus 7 factorial. So notice the difference. This guy only has 8 minus 7 factorial. It doesn't have a part for 7 factorial. So a permutation doesn't have a part for 7 factorial. That's a difference. So this guy, the formula is so for this guy, the formula is k n factorial. So there's some speaker which is making noise. You can just mute your mic. There's a speaker which is making noise. Mute your mic, please. All right, so n factorial over n minus k factorial. So that's a formula for a permutation. So it's easy. So you just find 8 factorial over 8 minus 7 factorial. So 8 factorial over 1 factorial. What do you get? What do you get, guys? Since I'm talking to myself, people are gone. 8 factorial.
The network is all or not?
Confusion.
Where is this?
I don't think there is somebody.
Malichi told us to go research.
Oh, no wonder.
So my phone users, ni mavuta.
I think your mic is muted.
Sorry, I was actually on mute. I didn't know I was on mute. All right, so the permutation, that's how we solve it. We don't add the second factorial. So we go on. Combination. For the combination, we use the formula that we used initially. The formula that we used initially, 8 factorial. Let me just mute those who are making noise.
Lombe, mute yourself.
So the combination 8 over 4, so 8 factorial over 4 factorial, open bracket 8 minus 4 factorial, so it will be 8 factorial over 4 factorial over 4 factorial. So it will be 8 times 7 times 6 times 5, so times 4 factorial. So the 4 factorial cancels with 1 4 factorial. Then if we expand those guys, we're going to get 70. So if you have some free time, make sure you go through and make sure that you find 70 as your answer. All right, we proceed to, this should be the last question in your tutorial sheet, yes? So this question, guys, I want you to pay much attention because these are the questions that will come in the exam. These are the questions that they like bringing even in tests and exams. So they are asking us to find the fourth term without expanding this equation. So note that the first term has n choose 0. The second term has n choose 1. The third term has n choose 2. So the fourth term will have n choose 3. So we have n choose 3. So which is our n is 12. So we have 12 choose 3. Then x to the power n minus 3, which is 12 minus 3. And the y part has 2y power the 3. So the fourth term is found by that. So we realize that 12 choose 3 is 220. X to the power 12 minus 3 is 9. Then 2 to the power 3 is 8. So it will be 8y to the 3. So 8y to the 3, it will be 8 times 220, which will give us 1,760 x to the 9, y to the 3. So our fourth term is 1,760 x to the 9, y to the 3.
So is there a formula like the normal formula for this one? Because it looks like you just jumped into the solving, like going into the answer. Which one is the formula which you're using?
It's the binomial.
Okay, the formula I explained. Okay, those who are laughing, can you just mute your mics? We don't want to hear your laughter, please. So, sir, the formula is this. N choose, because this is the fourth term, so the fourth term is the k. So we say the term, which is k minus 1. You see that, sir? Then x to the 10 minus k, you put them in brackets like that, k, k minus 1, y to the k minus 1. That is your formula, sir.
Oh, all right. So k is the constant, then n is the number of terms.
N is the power, then k is the term that you are looking at. So in this case, the term is 4. So 4 minus 1 is 3, and this is the 3 that we got here.
Oh.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
So are they going to like provide any of these formulas? Because they're a lot.
It depends with what your lecturer decides to do. I can't say much on that.
We should just provide some of them. Eh?
So for the B part, x plus 4y to the 12, we're finding the third term. So the third term will now be 12, choose k minus 1. The k is 3, 3 minus 1 is 2. So it will be 12, choose 2, x to the 12 minus 2, which is 10. So x to the 10, 4y to the 2. So we'll have 12 choose 2 is 66. X to the 10, then 4 to the 2 is 16, y to the 2. So we'll have 16 times 66 is 1056, x to the 10, y to the 2. So x plus 4y to the 12, the third term is 1056, x to the 10, y to the 2. So that is it, guys. We end there unless you have questions.
Can you share the same solution so that maybe we can refer to it when we're studying?
No problem. I will send this PDF in your groups